Hey everyone, welcome back. Just want to say thanks for subscribing. I just hit the 1,000 mark. You guys are unreal. In this episode, we are going to be refinishing this it's a T-trolley or a bar cart or something, but we're going to turn it into a bar cart. So here are the caster wheels that I picked up off Amazon and the handle that we're going to be using. But first things first, I'm going to use some mineral spirits. We're going to put it on a rag and we're going to clean this project up as best we can before we get started. I don't know what was on this project, but it was pretty greasy, so it needed some good cleaning. So let's flip this over and see how we're going to install these new casters. When I purchased this, I knew I was going to put casters on this, but I didn't know there were already holes in the bottom where there were old casters, because I didn't even know it was an old T-trolley or cart. But lucky I didn't even need to drill any holes. I just needed to remove the old caster sockets and install the new ones so my wheels would fit. All I did here was I lightly tapped a screwdriver on the edge with a hammer and they just plucked up.
Oh, well, that worked.
Yeah, that one made me flinch. So, to install the new sockets, instead of just hitting it directly with a hammer, I decided to take a piece of wood and just tap the top of it until it dug into the bottom. So they were pretty easy to install. I'm not going to put the wheels on yet just because we are painting and I'm not getting paint on them. We're not staining, but we are painting, so it's still good to do a bit of sanding here before, just to lightly scuff up the surface. Sand by hand when you're doing round edges. I find it just prevents any flattening on the round edge, but when it's flat, to do it quicker, grab your electric sander. I removed the drawer just because it's going to be easier to sand, paint, and basically do everything. But after sanding, clean up every bit of dust before we can move on to our next step. The front of the drawer had a few nicks and dents in it, so I grabbed some wood filler and we are going to fill it up and then wait until it dries and sand it. Then using a steel putty knife, I just scrape it smooth. Here's the paint I'm using. It's a Behr paint in Euro Gray. It's a satin finish. I only needed a sample size because this project is pretty small. I'm just gonna throw this paint right on and we're gonna get started painting using a brush. Around this moment, I decided I was going to paint the legs black, so we're not going to be throwing any gray paint on them. So we're going to let this first coat dry and we'll come back to it soon. I purchased this drawer pull before the casters and these are silver, so I'm just going to paint them to try to match the casters as best we can. But first I'm going to cover up all the black because we're not going to be painting the black, we're just going to paint over the silver. Before any painting, we're going to do a nice light scuff with some sandpaper, just so the paint adheres a little bit better. Then wipe any dust. I'm spraying a black spray paint for a primer coat. And now while we wait for the handles to dry, we can move on to the drawer and sand it. The wood filler has dried and we can just sand through, and it's a nice smooth surface now. After sanding and wiping any dust, we can apply our first coat of paint on the drawer. Now let's put on our second coat of gray paint. Here I'll speed that process up a little bit. Alright, back to the drawer pulls, and here's the gold paint I'm going to be painting over the black primer. I'm going to spray 2 really light coats just so you can still kind of see the black behind it, and it'll match the casters better. After finishing up that drawer pull, we are going to tape around the edges here so we don't get any black paint on the gray paint. I won't show you the full process, but I just did this on all the corners, and the top I completely taped over it, put some cardboard. Now let's pop these up on some painter's pyramids. And let's get started with our black paint on the legs. There's our first coat, and when that dries, let's get started on the second coat. If you have made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I have lots of furniture flips and makeovers coming your way. So, hit that button. Thank you. Anyways, back to the project. I actually needed a third coat of black paint because certain areas where I had the gray paint, it was just showing through. But now let's move on to removing this tape. After peeling the tape, you can see it wasn't perfect, but don't worry, we're going to clean that up. I picked up a small brush set, and I think it's going to be perfect for these small touch-ups just along the edges. So I threw on some gray paint and just lightly went back and forth these corners here and cleaned up any black spills that went through the tape. I really took my time here. I didn't want to accidentally put the gray paint right on the corner, so just nice, slow and steady, and it came out pretty nice. Now I'm measuring the center of the drawer so I can figure out where I'm going to drill my holes for the pull. So here's what it turned out with a bit of gold paint on it, and let's peel off that tape. It matches up pretty decent now. After the measurements, let's drill the holes. I tested and they fit in nice, but we're not going to put them in yet because we're going to do some waxing. But before the wax, I wanted to spray one light coat of lacquer. This is so when I'm rubbing on the wax, I didn't chip or peel any paint off because that's pretty annoying. I'm going to apply a coat of this clear finishing wax, and then we're going to apply a dark wax. After rubbing on the clear wax, I grabbed some dark finishing wax, and we're going to put this all over the project. I kind of wanted to add this little dark hint to the gray. The gray was pretty light, and I thought it would be pretty cool to try this out. I definitely lathered a nice amount of wax on there, but we're going to wipe it off and see what it turns out like. Instead of waiting to buff the wax when it's dry, I'm just going to wipe it off. It's almost like I'm doing an antique glazing just with wax. There's a lot of wiping involved, but I just wiped until I got a look that I liked. I rubbed this dark wax on the black legs as well, but now we're going to throw it on the gray paint on the bottom shelf. Don't forget to do the drawer. So I threw some dark wax on there too. After letting that dry overnight, it's not cured, but it's dry to touch. I threw on these caster wheels. These things look super cool, I gotta say. Alright, here I thought I was done, but it wasn't. It didn't look quite right. So I picked up this $3 wine rack, and I wanted to put this on the bottom piece of the bar cart. So we're going to clean it up with mineral spirits. It had a lot of dirt and dust on it and spider webs and all that. So we're going to use mineral spirits, give it a good cleaning, and now we're going to apply and spray some black paint on it. After spray painting the entire piece, I applied dark wax over everything I could. It was a pretty awkward piece, I gotta say. Anyways, after finishing the wine rack part out, I thought I should add something to give bottles a little more grip and just to also protect the top layer of paint on the top of the cart. I measured and then I grabbed my knife and I cut the perfect piece. Alright, on to my favorite part. Let's take a look at this piece one more time before. And now let's take a look at this piece when we refinished it completely. If you like this bar cart makeover, hit that thumbs up button, and if you want to see more videos similar to this one, then hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.